Excellent. So we are now recording in and around and of creating a layout for a web page in Illustrator. And I have a page already started here, and I'm going to be modifying this a fair amount. So the first thing I'm going to do is just do a save as, because I know that I'm going to change it a lot. And I'll call this one Web Layout 02 AI. And then I'm going to be thinking about some of the things that I want to show in terms of portfolio that are going to hide and show if I create screenshots or save this out in different ways as save for the web. In Illustrator, just so you know, if you've never really noticed it before, there is a thing here called Save for Web. What this allows you to do is save your individual layouts, such as I'm doing now, or pieces and parts of design elements so that they are ready to go into a web page. And I'm going to show you how to use this to finalize your work for your portfolio. Next thing I want to do is I want to jump over to my reference, and my reference is adobe.com. I know that you've been working very hard and that this is a lot of work. I wanted to remind you that there's a lot of help for you online. So this is one way I could create my pop-down menu, probably not the way I really want to do it. Another way I could create my pop-down menu might be, let's go to Airbnb. I'm actually going to go to homepage. A lot of times a logo will be a reload for a page, not always. And then when I'm looking at different menu choices here, what I'm really looking at is how I might want to display my pop-up menu. That's kind of a key thing here. So I'm looking at this as a possible way that I would want to make this menu. And that's where I'm going to begin. I'm going to begin in Illustrator by creating my pop-down menu. How's that panel going to look? One other key thing I will mention as we move through the evening is keeping track of and controlling my layers. My pretend website is about honey and honey-based products. And this layer is actually going to be all of the gray panels and preliminary text, prelim text. Okay, so that I can lock it and do other things as I need to. So I've just created a new layer. And I'm going to double click on this layer. And I'm going to call it Pop Down Menu. Pop down menu. And then I'm going to lock my other layer. There's many ways I could make my pop down menu in terms of building my element, but I'm going to start with a rectangle, simply changing it to a light gray color. Z for zoom. I'm going to zoom in a couple of clicks to see where this is positioned. I do not want a black outline on it. And I do want it to have a little pointy arrow type menu. So I'm going to line this up and then move it down. To create my triangle, I am simply going to create a polygon using the polygon tool and option click to create a three-sided polygon, and it's giant because it's 50 pixels. But with these two pieces touching, I'm going to click on one and shift click on the other one and go Window and Pathfinder I am now going to make them into one piece, and that is union up here, or merge. So I'm going to do merge, and there's my little triangle. Okay. All right, now because this is going to be on its own layer, I can hide and show it as I need to. Hide show. Good so far? All right, now I want to put the items that I'm going to need in my menu here. I don't know exactly the right size to make the type. And I'm saying that as if I'm talking out loud while I'm designing in my head. You know, I'm talking in there, and I don't know maybe what size I want to make my type, but I do know what the menu items are going to be. So I'll type the menu items. And the menu items are going to be honey from around the US, the United States. That's a menu item. I'll place it over here. And then option, click and drag down. Whatever that spacing is, I'm going to have 7 menu items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now I know that they're all equidistantly spaced. That was Command D to transform again. And now I'm going to have beekeeper supplies, regional growing and harvesting. Books and publications. About our mission, who we are, and finally save. These. Probably should have one more here, unless I've already put it out here, and I'm not sure that I did. Nope, I did put contact out already, so I'm not going to put contact again. Now, I made all of these separate line elements, and the main reason why I did that is because I may want to have them appear different colors if they're in different states. So I want to be able to show what it looks like when the user is moused over these. And from this point, I'm simply going to come to the corner of my type elements where they're all selected and hold the Shift key and drag until I have this approximately where I think it should be. And that's where I think it should be. Okay. Now, this is a personal trick. This not everyone does this, but I do this. Is when I look at a type element that I just created based on scaling using the TLAR method, that looks about right. I don't usually like to leave it on some oddball number like that. 18.87 for a font size, maybe not a great idea. Because when this translates into code, all the elements that are type need to have a specific size that's easily translated into CSS values. So at the very least, what I want to do is round this number to 18 or 19, or even 20. So I am going to put it at 18. And I can do those all at once. So there's what it's going to look like at 18. And now go ahead and put these all at 18. Selecting the side of my menu. Here is something I don't really feel like I talked about a lot in this class, and that is the sub-selection tool. This white arrow tool, instead of just scaling this box by clicking this white arrow tool first, which is the direct or sub-selection tool, I'm clicking on the vertical side line of my box, and I'm actually just moving it. So I'm not scaling the box. I'm resizing it, but I'm not scaling it. So I'm keeping the triangle the same size and the proportions the same size. On the left side, the height is the same. Okay, and then I may want to take all of this stuff and give it a little bit more air between these letters. So we're going to head over to the character palette, and I'm going to use tracking. And it's moving really slowly. I have 5 tracked out, and I'm going to use the up arrow here using the shift key. Now I have it tracked out to 30, and it's too much, and now it's 20, and now it's 10. And I think that looks good, so I'm going to just, again, make that 10, and then I'm going to click away and nudge my box over. For now, I will take beekeeper supplies, and I'll make that the selected element right now by selecting it, just this type element, and making it white. Legible? Art directors, are you happy with that? So far, so good? All right, I think I'll just give this one little nudge. Now I'm going to say here that I want to select all of the elements, including the panel. And for now, I'm going to group them. I may decide to ungroup them later, but I feel like they'll be really easier to deal with if they're grouped. Now they're one piece. So if I click on it, I could move it around all together without having to click multiple pieces to move it and get it exactly where I want it positioned, which is there. Makes things a little bit easier. I might also really want to make sure that these elements are exactly centered. So here's something interesting to take into account. If I use the regular selection tool now on this group, all the pieces get selected. And if I want to center everything, I might want to use a command to do that. So I'm going to select everything again and do an ungroup. And then instead of grouping everything to the panel, I'm going to group just the text elements by themselves. Object group. And now I'm going to get my alignment panel. Window, align. Selecting the text, holding shift key, selecting the panel. And now I want to center them. And nothing moved, which means I had it centered, which is scary, because I just eyeballed it. Nothing moved. So let's have it move so it'll feel exciting. All right, so I'll select these two again, and now I will center it. Okay, now it's centered. What if you want it centered to the 3 bars? I want it centered to the 3 bars. Now what I'll do is I will do a group again, because all pieces are selected. So you're doing a little mind reading back there. All right, and then I want to look at how to center for this piece. You notice this is one of my little personal tricks here. You could measure, or you could do a visual measurement. So if I click and drag and using Smart Guide, so it's snapping, and I see there's a middle point here, a center point. I'll use this center point, Command R, to pull out my ruler, and from here I'll drop down right on center, and then my triangle will go right on the tip of that line, right really on the line, like so. And then I'll remove this box. Now it's centered. And then I can remove the guide. So that's what it's going to look like with the menu open. Or at least the first idea of what I think it should look like with the menu open. Yes?
Whenever I try to align things, I notice that the background's always right where I want it, and then I'm trying to align something to the background, and then both shift always,
All right.
To make that not happen.
That's a very important question that you just brought up. You know what this button is, the Align To button? So you want to either align things to the selection or to the artboard. Key object generally means the object that you selected first. So another way I could center this is I'll move it off center and I'll select, oh, it's locked. Okay, so I'm helping myself here. I'm going to group these now. Keep the questions coming. It's so helpful to know what's going on for you guys. Right, so now that's selected. And now I'm going to shift select the second thing, which is the menu. And I should be able to go Align To Key Object. And we'll see what this does here. All right, so it actually did not align to the object I wanted it to align to. I want this to be the key object. So you want to be the key object. And then shift click, and then Align To Key Object. And yeah, it's odd. It's not doing it the way I want it to do it. So let's try this. Why is this coming out as key object? Select. All right, so what I think is I need to put these both on the same layer. So I'm going to put this square up here on the pop-down menu layer and try it again. 1, 2, Align To Key Object. See, now this is the darker one. And now it just hates me. Okay, it's not. Oh, it is aligning to the center of that. It is aligning. It's aligning to the center, but not this to the center. It's actually aligning correctly, and I'm just basically a little bit mental. Okay, I am. I'm having a little bit of a mental day. I'll tell you why. My brother had back surgery, and the surgery did not work. So now he has to have another surgery. So I'm kind of bummed. I'm a little preoccupied. Now that I said that and you know it, you'll know why I'm a little bit skittery tonight. All right, so that's how I want it, and I'm happy with it. All right, great. Now I want to hide the pop-down menu. Yay. And start working on some of the other elements in my design. Clearly, some of these pieces may need to be photoshopped, and others will be type elements. If I want to expand the size of this document, which I do want to expand the size of this document, I'll do that from Artboard. I'll click on the Artboard button. This is the Artboard button. And now I'm going to click and drag down to increase the height because I want to add another bunch of information down here. And then I'll press return and simply go back to the move tool and taking my phone number and my legal information and dragging these down. The line tool is a good friend of mine. I'm a very big fan of the line tool. Line tool in Illustrator. Click and drag to create a horizontal line across my document. And right now my line has no fill and no stroke, so I can't see it. And I need it to be stroked. I'm going to stroke it in black, and it's a one-point line. To increase the length of the line, if you've already drawn a line and you want to increase the length, you can use this white arrow tool again, the sub-select tool. And now I'm going to do another align so that I can demonstrate the last alignment property. So I'm going to go to the Align panel, and I'm going to align this to the artboard, and I want it to be centered in the artboard. And now it is. Okay. I find that, I'm going to move this over a little more, I do not ever get a layout done in one sitting. I mean, unless it's just like something so simple. I find I really do need to come back and revisit my work multiple times. So if you're finding that you need to go away from the work and come back from the work, I think that's very reasonable. And I was thinking about that on the way over here, and I wanted to mention that and ask you about that. Are you finding that you need to have multiple sittings to do your projects? Yes. Okay. All right, the next thing I'm going to do here is move some of this content down a little bit and do some quick photo compositing. So I'm going to save this and go over to Photoshop. The area that I want to fill, this is a nice little trick here, with my header art can be captured exactly as I need it to be using a screenshot. Some of the things I'm showing you tonight are just personal things that I like to do. So I'm going to go Shift-Command-4, and that gives me the snapshot cursor. And I'm going to click and drag an area within which I want my artwork to be. So this is the size I am going to make my artwork. Taking the snapshot now, and when I go over to Photoshop and I open it, I can get that screenshot I just made this back into my Illustrator file. I won't have any questions as, is it going to fit? Yes, it's going to fit. And that's why I wanted you to lay everything out as much as you could before you started putting your content in. And I'm simply going to go to our friends at Creative Commons. And search for honeycomb. Okay. I'm not going to make an Uber project out of finding the artwork that I want to use, but you will. You'll want to make an Uber project out of it. Take the time to find the thing that you really need it to be. And I'm going to just take this, okay? That will do. That is so intense looking, huh? That's the honey in there. I don't see any baby bees. So I'm going to Control-click and copy the image and toggle back over to Photoshop and then Command-V to paste. Command-T is for scale. And I'm going to scale this down. And I want to arrange it so that I can see one of these rows well. Even if there's spillover, I want to still see one row well. Almost there. All right, so that looks about right. And then I'm going to just trim the edges with a feathered selection. So I'm going to go to Feather with my rectangle marquee tool selected. I'm going to choose Feather, and I'm going to guess on a 20 feather. And the object here is I'm going to come up to one edge of this honeycomb and press Delete, or rather Option Delete, and nothing is happening. Option Delete. Okay, so now we're wondering what's going on with my computer. At least I am. I'm wondering what's going on with my computer, why this is not cutting. Well, it's cutting. That's good. All right, so I'm going to cut. Command X. And I should have that same kind of thing happening on this side. So I'm going to click and drag and Command X. My 20 feather has become a 2. There's 20. And right up and cut, cut, cut. Sort of have a soft little edge there. Might even want to add another layer. And that's fine. Add a new layer. Use a white brush. Make sure that it's on a soft setting. Hardness 0, which is softness 100. And maybe that's a little bit more like what I want to do. Okay? So it's kind of ghosted out to the edges. And finally, I want this to have a lot more brightness to it, so I'm going to select the honeycomb and do Command L for levels adjust and just brighten it up. Okay. Now, something you may or may not know in Photoshop is if I take this background layer where I already have the logo name and artwork here, this little pentagon, which really needs to be a hexagon, I could do what's known as a multiply and make the black and white artwork show up on top of the photo because black acts as 100% and white acts as 0% when you do the setting of multiply. However, that is not what I'm going to do. I just wanted you to know I could. I'm actually going to use Photoshop to finish the type part. I just know that this little piece will fit as I need it to. I just felt like I needed to throw that in there. Okay. All right, now here's the element that I need for my page. And so here comes my first save for web. So I'm going to go here, File, Save As. And in fact, this is in Photoshop. I'm going to save this as a PNG file format because PNG or Portable Network Graphics will allow me to have a nice continuous tone image and still be a small size. And there's my honeycomb, PNG, on the desktop. And I'll click Save and OK and toggle back over to Illustrator. And here I'm going to do File, Place. There's my honeycomb JPEG. Place it. And I'm not going to click and drag. I'm simply going to click. Actually, it looks smaller, so I'll try it again. File, Place. Why it looks smaller is because of the zoom factor I have on here. So I'm going to go ahead and place it again. And this time I'll click and drag so you can see the difference here. If I click and drag, I can just drop it right down here and scoot it over. And I'm going to cut it, select this shape and text and do Edit, Paste in Back. Okay, now getting rid of this shape. And I'm going to call this the end of the first recording, Stop Record.